All right, and last but not least, we have Jack O'Halloran. He is the co-founder and CEO of SKALE Network. Hi, Jack.
All right. Hello.
SKALE Network. So SKALE is an Ethereum native blockchain network. What's unique about SKALE is that it's multi-chain, which means that an unlimited number of blockchains can run concurrently on the SKALE network. Functionality and performance are dedicated specifically to apps, but privacy is pooled across the network. So with that brief introduction, I want to give you more time for your presentation. Please feel free to introduce yourself and take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. I've been finding myself in this position lately at conferences where I'm like the last speaker before the drinks. So thank you for staying here. If you're watching online, don't let this hold you back. So, all right, here we go. We've got 20 minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the SKALE network. I think for a lot of you, this might be your first deep dive or interaction with SKALE. So we'll talk a little bit about what SKALE does, how the technology functions, how the security properties function, and how SKALE interacts with the Ethereum mainnet. Then I'm going to get into metrics, and this is part of the agenda here at the proof of work arena here at Messari. We'll talk a little bit about real metrics on chain and things happening with the project. This is a fully decentralized project, and a lot of people are putting a lot of really great work forward, and I'm happy to be able to talk about that today. Last, we'll talk about what's coming. There's a lot happening in October, so we'll get into that. All right, here we go. Okay. So thank you, by the way, for the great introduction. I'm going to go a little bit further with that. So SKALE is a multi-chain Ethereum native blockchain network. That's a lot of words. I'm going to unpack for you here on the next slides. A little more about the project. We started this effort in 2017, and it's just taken an incredible amount of time and effort from a lot of people to get the network to where it is today. The mainnet launched and went live October 1st, 2020. We're now fully decentralized with 160 nodes run by 48 unique validator orgs. I'll also say I think we're really proud of the fact that the core team and the foundation don't run a single node. Okay, this is entirely run in a fully open, community-driven manner. All right, there's about 1.5 billion staked for security in the SKALE network. As of today, because it's a big conference, everybody's security dropped about 10 to 15% based on token prices, but it's roughly 1.5 billion, which is what that means is it means security for applications building on SKALE. All right, there are incentive mechanisms that penalize bad actors to the tune of about $1.5 billion if they're malicious. And this is even leading up to the big launch where we're going to see NFTs and DeFi and other projects go live on the SKALE network. All right, another thing, there's already 2 million token holders, 4,000 staking addresses, and about 69% stake rate across the network, which means 69% of tokens are being staked in the network. Please check out stakingrewards.com and you can read more about that. Okay. All right, well, what is a multi-chain network? So most people, multi-chain is now such a common term, when you say multi-chain, they assume, oh, so it's SKALE and the Ethereum mainnet and these other blockchain networks. So that's multi-chain from a network view. What SKALE, or from a numerous network perspective, SKALE is multi-chain in that the SKALE network itself has many, many blockchains, okay? And so why does this matter? This matters because this network is not capped. It's not limited. So you can run an unlimited number of these blockchains. And what we end up having is the ability for businesses and entities and groups to run blockchains that are connected to the Ethereum network, not share functionality, but be able to capture and share pooled security with every other SKALE chain in the network. And this is enabled through some advanced containerization techniques. So validator operators don't just work for one single chain, they work for many chains by way of having essentially sharing and spreading their resourcing across different applications. And therefore, penalties and combined security properties all fold into the macro level of the network, whereas your own chain can run up to its own capacity, okay? So another piece of this is the network is not limited in terms of the number of nodes. At some point, people say, all right, well, what if the network fills up? What happens? Well, there's actually an elastic price model. So when you purchase a Scale chain, you have to buy Scale tokens, stake them into the Scale network, and then the Ethereum mainnet actually deploys a chain for you, okay? And when you get that chain, you have to pay a certain amount of Scale. Well, if the network is only at 10, 20% load, well, it costs a lot less, as you can see by this very simplified chart, which I thought might do a better job than showing you the actual numbers, which can be a bit confusing. But what we have is a non-linear growth curve. And this is the same way rideshare platforms work, right? If you want to get an Uber or a Lyft, and so does everyone else, it costs a lot more. It's called surge pricing. Well, there's surge pricing on Scale, but the nice thing is you're only locked into it when you purchase the chain or rent the chain for that given time. Your end users aren't impacted by constantly fluctuating price. So, and so what this does is just incentivizes more nodes to come to the network and join the network, which then compresses the price again, pushes the price back down, just like more drivers say, hey, it's surge, there's a holiday, let me get out and ride, and the price goes back down. The supply and the demand are able to meet at a point where it makes economic sense for both providers to the network, i.e. validator operators, and dApp developers. Okay, so the term Ethereum Native is, I think, interesting. This is a newer term, but what does that mean? There are a lot of blockchains that connect to Ethereum. And that's what I would say is that's Ethereum interoperable. To be Ethereum native, you actually have to be built on Ethereum. The blockchain has to be claimed by Ethereum. And what that means is if Ethereum quits working, so does the Scale network. And the reason why is because all staking in the Scale network happens on Ethereum. Slashing, so we talked about the penalties. So that 1.5 billion USD value Scale staked actually is staked on the Ethereum mainnet in a contract on Ethereum. Token transfers all happen on the Ethereum mainnet. If you want to Scale chain, let's say you're a major global brand launching an NFT project, and you want a decentralized blockchain, but you don't want to share your compute resources and your blockchain resources. Well, Scale's a really great fit. And when you do that, well, then how do nodes get assigned to you? Because collusion is an issue when it comes to scalability. Well, the Ethereum mainnet actually protects the entropy, the process that selects nodes to run on each chain, and it randomly will select nodes and add them to Scale chains. And so that's another huge value the Ethereum network provides the Scale network. But Ethereum clearly provides Scale a lot of value, but Scale provides value back because anytime you pay for a chain, anytime you stake, anytime you send a token, anytime you claim bounty, guess what? You have to pay gas fees. So it ends up being a really value add incentive alignment and almost a modern decentralized rev capture that we have happening with Scale and Ethereum, where Scale success does not just suck value out of Ethereum, it actually feeds value back in terms of fees and by pulling off a lot of transactions that will frankly clog up the network. Okay, so you have a Scale chain. What does it do? Well, at the end of the day, it's this very fast EVM chain. It runs C++ Ethereum in EVM. Anything you run on Ethereum can go run on a Scale chain. Large chains test at over 2,000 transactions per second. Small chains are testing around 100 transactions per second, which means it's fast. It's also cost effective, so you subsidize the cost for your end users by renting a chain. All right, and you do that once a year or multiple times a year based off of the contract. The other piece here, it's easy to use, so there's no cumbersome wait out, timeout periods, no tokens you need to use the chain as an end user. The goal is to make blockchain really grow to this larger audience and help the people that are doing that, who are developers, make that happen. All right. So Scale, as I had mentioned, it's fully interoperable and built on Ethereum. The other piece here that's interesting is chains can message back to other chains. So thanks to threshold encryption, what we have here is a messaging proxy that looks similar to the current internet and databases. And so you'd think, hey, well, if we have all these blockchains, that could be really messy and expensive for them to essentially communicate. Because of threshold cryptography, BLS threshold signatures are used, and very lightweight messages can be sent from chain to chain or chains to the mainnet. Right now, that bridge is clocking in at about 18 seconds. And all of this really is thanks to the fact that scale chains are containerized, which bring up other features, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so containers. Containers let you do a lot more with your resources, all right? So these are computers within computers, and in the enterprise, it's just table stakes. You don't just run big servers, you run servers with Docker and Kubernetes, and you get a lot of value out of the services you run. Well, part of Scale is containerized, and it lets a network run in a very optimized, containerized manner. It saves costs for validators. It makes resources efficient and easy to use for developers, helps them be priced at the right value too. They're not buying resources they don't need. But it also brings the ability to do other features. So if you look at Scale, there's also a container on every Scale chain that lets you store images and files, okay? Images in file formats and videos. And therefore, you can actually hold NFTs directly on the Scale chain and mint them at no cost, thanks to the Scale model. All right. So NFTs are becoming slowly, first it was slow, now it's really fast, becoming the most popular and highest growth category in Scale. And again, when you mint an NFT, typically you have a contract that says the user owns this link. Well, that link is really what matters, and is the file that connects to that link truly immutable? And Scale helps that happen. All right. Sorry, I've had a cough for a while. Just got a COVID test, no worries. We are at a conference, but so everyone knows. All right, so metrics that matter. I talked about a few of these earlier. 1.5 billion staked in the network, 160 nodes, 48 validator orgs running, fully decentralized, and also being run by the top validator orgs in the world. Figment, Blockdaemon, Chorus One, Chainflow, many others are running the Scale network. There's 27 or 28 separate businesses and entities running 48 unique validator orgs. When we talk about on-chain metrics for dApps, and this means DeFi, NFTs, et cetera, the first set of applications went live last month, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we're really excited next month for the DeFi and the NFT launch. All right, last piece here, there's 40 plus ecosystem partners. This means oracles. This means other partner platforms that you can access within the Ethereum ecosystem. All right. As I mentioned earlier, the first dApps just went live last month, which was incredibly exciting. And these are the applications that went live that don't need access to the Scale bridge. The Scale IMA bridge is being rolled out next month, and it will enable transactions to flow between Scale and the Ethereum mainnet in 20 seconds, which is a huge, huge feat. All right, so this all leads up to next month, which I want to talk about in a second. All right, so if you talk to anybody about at Scale or working in and around Scale, everyone's really excited for next month. This is 4 years in the making, billions of dollars staked into the network, and we have a focused launch around NFTs and DeFi. This includes major Hollywood entertainment studios. It includes professional athletes and professional sports teams. It includes major esports, including what I would say is one of the top teams in the world in esports, and many, many other NFTs launching in gaming. So we're really excited about this. One reason around this, I talked earlier about pricing and true immutability. But another piece is that you could think of a Scale chain almost as a white labeled product. So imagine if you're one of the top brands in the world and you say, hey, I want to have my own blockchain. Well, that would typically mean you need a proof of authority chain. You're really running a private blockchain. And so a lot of the values a big entity would get out of a private blockchain are really just washed away because of the centralized nature of the product. And so a lot of these big companies appreciate what Scale provides and that they get their own chain and place X brand powered by Scale is the way they see it, where they're getting their own chain, but really it's sitting on top of a decentralized pool of security and a decentralized network. DeFi, so we're pumped for DeFi. We've got AMMs and different DeFi protocols going live next month. This includes top tier teams from current teams that already have products, as well as newly funded efforts. We also, the typical blue chip names will be coming soon thereafter. Lastly is Web3, which I think could potentially be the largest vertical for Scale due to Scale file storage and the limitless potential of the network and how it can keep growing and supporting Ethereum applications. So this includes social media, marketplaces, consumer apps, gaming. So we've announced, I think, about 15 different partners building. There are many, many more that we are keeping, that they themselves are keeping essentially behind closed doors for a big announcement. So October is the date where you're going to start seeing a lot of those logos and brand names roll out. We're really excited for that. But getting into that, well, what's next? So beyond this launch, well, one, there'll be an ecosystem fund launching. If you see all these businesses and applications and decentralized efforts launching on Scale, well, hey, we want to help support them, and there will be a fund run by a unique group that is not part of the core team or the foundation that will be investing in projects that build on the Scale network. We're really excited about that. There'll also be a Scale implement program. And so if you think about it, we have a lot of implementation businesses that have moved into the blockchain space over the last few years. And there's so many engineers globally building services for blockchain. We have a program we're running where they specialize and they focus on Scale implementation, and this channel really comes to life. Again, I talked about this earlier, but they can share security while not sharing functionality or performance, and launch chains powered by Scale. Okay, so got a few more minutes for questions, and I have a few seconds to drink some water.
Thank you for that. So one of the questions we had was, given that Scale is a multi-chain, but also Ethereum native, do you consider it as a layer 1 or layer 2 blockchain? And there can be many definitions, but how would you define Scale?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. I think there's some religiosity around what layer 1 or layer 2 means, and the reality is Scale doesn't really fit cleanly in any bucket. There's a lot of security from the Ethereum mainnet passed onto the Scale network. There's also consensus being run on the Scale network that has slashing implications that happen on the Ethereum mainnet. So it really doesn't fit, and I honestly think we need better words. I think layer 1 and layer 2 are, we don't have a lot to work with there in terms of technical specificity. And so what I like to say is Scale is Ethereum native, and the goal is to help scale blockchain. And there's layer 1 performance and layer 1 security, but also a lot of layer 2 dynamics at play.
That makes sense. So the next question is about NFTs. You mentioned that Scale can be used to mint NFTs at no cost and then store them directly on the blockchain. How does that scale, no pun intended, but how does that scale in the context of storage limitations on the blockchain?
It's a really good question. It's something we're pretty consistently asked. They're saying, well, it's really expensive to store assets on the blockchain. Why would I do that? Well, one, you want to store assets that are valuable because it is expensive. But when it comes to an NFT, it's still incredibly accessible for businesses to mint on Scale and store files on Scale because of the file storage container I mentioned earlier. So if you think about it, there's a storage container or computer that lives on every chain that's entirely dedicated to storing files. You can also run pre-trained TensorFlow models in the same file storage component. But it does have a certain capacity, and at some point it will fill up. And then people, guess what? They have to rent more space from the network. If the network gets overloaded, the price goes up, and then more validators will run servers because it becomes profitable for them to take on new operational costs.
So the storage scales in that sense,
yeah,
based on demands. Got it.
Yeah.
Great. So then, how does Scale Bridge function with regards to moving assets between Scale and Ethereum or between multiple Scale chains?
Yeah. So the bridge is the only fully decentralized bridge to my knowledge. I know there's probably others out there, but one of the values is there's no centralized intermediary helping operate the bridge. It's because of threshold encryption. So when Scale consensus is run, 2/3 of the nodes sign essentially a threshold signature. And then one of those nodes is elected to essentially send that message to a contract on the Ethereum mainnet. And if that node's a bad actor and wants to send a bad message, it actually just can't. It's limited in what it can do due to the threshold cryptography. And so the use of BLS enables a lot of really lightweight interchain communication that's cost effective. And I'm sure there's others doing that, but we're excited that there's no centralized computer. There's no central authority with a multisig that then can say, hey, I'm going to overtake the bridge and essentially take all the assets from the chain. It puts the security back to the consensus that's happening within that chain. And again, relaying that back even further to the Ethereum mainnet where this billion plus staking lives that could be slashed.
Got it. So this is my last question for the day is, you talked a little bit about containers. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about the use of containers to support the network?
Yeah, I think we're seeing containers really come to life more in blockchain networks and Scale. We had the luxury of being able to start working on this in 2017 and really start building in 2018, where I think Docker and Kubernetes were more of a household name at that point. And I think we were also fortunate to have a team that had a lot of deep knowledge and experience in both cryptography and containerization. And so again, it's all about proper resourcing and maximizing security and performance. And I'm starting to see containers be leveraged even more in other blockchain networks, especially newer products and newer approaches. So it's transformative and something that's not talked about enough, I think.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone in the audience as well. Hopefully we'll see you guys at one of the, 8 events later today. But yeah, I did introduce myself earlier. My name is Akshi Federici. I'm a partner at Kraken Ventures. So if you guys are building anything cool, please do come and speak with us at Kraken Ventures. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.